Hi guys, and welcome back to a new video. Today I wanted to share 15 things that you will notice when you're in Korea in the train. So everything that is related to train. I also have other topics that I will prepare soon, like what you will notice in the restaurant or what you will notice when you move into a Korean house. But this one is about the trains, so let's get into it. If you didn't know, Incheon is a little bit more far out of Seoul. It takes some time to get from Incheon to Seoul. So please be careful. If you want to take a taxi, this could be a little bit more expensive, but they also have some I Seoul You taxis that actually are a little bit cheaper. I don't know if they are only for foreigners, but it could be possible that that is only a foreigner option. So you can rather take that taxi, or if you take the train, you can go by the airport line, which is really convenient because you are directly going into like Hongdae or in the middle of Seoul and can transfer from that. But there's one thing that you already heard maybe. You have to buy a T-Money card. You have to put money on your T-Money card, which is also the same machine as the one-way ticket cards, and you can easily transfer by tapping it on the machines. What many people doesn't tell you is you can also, if you know that you will stay only around your location and will not travel that much, you can also just buy some one-way ticket. So you have to go to the machines where you also can charge your T-Money. That's always close to some entrances of some trains. You just can go there and select a one-way ticket. Then you have to put in where you want to go. But all of these machines are luckily also in English. They are also, I think, in Chinese and Japanese and in Korean. So you can also just tap on English and you will see everything in English.
Please select your destination by name or search the following number of your destination. Select a single journey ticket and the number of tickets you wish to purchase. Then insert money.
And they say that you have to give it a deposit. So as soon as you go out of the train on your destination with that one-way ticket, you just give it back in some machine that is next to these other machines, and they will give you the deposit back. In general, the deposit is, I think, about 500 won. Korea has a train maze. I got in the train station several times lost. Why is that? I mean, sometimes you have just a transfer from one point to another. You just go down some escalators, some stairs, and directly you can transfer to another train. But in some cases, you really end up walking like a 10-15 minutes and maybe on the way get lost because sometimes suddenly the direction, that arrows that show you the direction, are like a this way or like that way or something. But in the end, it's like a little bit different way, or it's really hard to see which way they are pointing at. So don't hesitate to just ask someone. And especially if you're lost, sometimes even Koreans come to you and ask you if they can help you, which also in the beginning happened to me several times. So the best is to just say, like if you want to go Hongdae, just say Hongdae. And they will usually just point where you have to go or which line you have to take. So you can get lost in the train stations, but there's always a way out. And also, sometimes there's marks on the floor which you easily oversee because there's so many people. So sometimes it's really good to just look at the floor and see if there's some lines where you have to go. Except of the maze of the underground. Line number 2 is a round trip train. Maybe I can put the map in here. So as you can see, line number 2 is a round trip train. That means it just goes the whole time in a circle. In that case, I heard from many foreigners, even some of my friends, that they are confused which way to go. And when I was the first time in Korea, I had the same issue. So if you want to go to some direction, the best is to check on the map which is the next direction, which is the next station in your direction you want to go. So, for example, you are in Gangnam and you want to go to Yoksan, or you want to go especially to like a coex, you have to go from Gangnam into Yeoksam direction. So it's more easy to see in the top. There's some which direction which station is, and mostly they have some bigger stations like Jamsil or something, but sometimes your station will be not there. So the easiest way is to check from your point which is the next station in the this direction or that direction, so you can easily find to your direction you want to go. Some other things about the direction is you have two things that you can easily navigate yourself in a train station. One is on the walls, they directly say where is the train you want to transfer, and they will say which line you can transfer. The other thing is if you are in a hurry or you know you have to run to another train because it's the last train, there are some marks on the floor. I will also try to find one or take one and put it here. These marks will also be in Kakao Map. So you can see here this quick exit. In case you will transfer to line number 1. I don't know why and when and where that came from, but I heard really many Koreans saying line 1 is a crazy line. Everything weird happened in line 1. And I also have like 2 or 3 things that actually happened to me. And when I said to my friends like, oh yeah, it was line 1, they're like, oh yeah, that is normal. So I was like, why you say like that? Yeah, line 1 is the crazy line. So in the end, like I had several times I just sit in the train in line number 1 because I also lived a little bit far outside one time from Seoul. So the best way to go to Seoul was taking line number 1. And I had everything from an old Korean guy trying to touching me and always trying to sit next to me. Even I moved my seat. He just the whole time followed me. To some random Korean guy going from one part of the train to the other part of the train, passing by me, sitting next to me and said like, do you have some money? In Korean, in English. So I was just acting like I didn't understand him. But the cutest thing in that situation was on the other side of the train, there was a Korean guy who saw that. Maybe he also thought like, oh yeah, we're in line number 1, so really crazy things could happen. So I was really shocked. I didn't know what to do. So I just acted like I didn't understand him or I didn't understand any English. So that other guy, that other Korean guy, just the whole time looked at me, how I feel, how I look like, and if he should help me. I mean, in the end, we didn't do like he didn't came or something because I just pretended I don't understand that weird guy. But after he left, we both just checked that direction. We both looked at each other just like what just happened? So after that, we just like just looked at each other a little bit more, and then he know I'm safe. I know he wanted to help me, so it was a really funny situation, but also really awkward at the same time. What is actually the thing about many Koreans sleep in the train? If you go to Korea and maybe you are inside of the lines, not line that airport line, just a normal line, you will notice many people sleep, but it's not only in the morning, it's not only in the evening, it's just continuously during the day. But especially in Korea, many people work really, really hard or have to go really far. Like they live outside of Seoul, maybe an hour or an hour and a half and go to Seoul. So often they use the time to sleep, or they just have to go to that hagwons, that after school learning facilities. So they are really tired. So you will easily find someone who sleeps in the train or in the bus or everywhere. Even sometimes at some bus stations, you will just see someone falling asleep. But please do not try to like touch them or talk to them or wake them up unless you have been told like that. Because Koreans still want to have their own privacy and don't want to go into some other person's life. The next thing that I noticed during the pandemic, it got a little bit more less than before. But also these days I saw several people doing that. Women who do their makeup or men who apply sunscreen in the train. But the most hilarious thing is I saw sometimes women in the bus which was the whole time shaking, or in the train, which was moving the whole time doing their makeup, but still it looked good. So I was really surprised about how can you do your mascara while the bus is shaking really much. Or, which is more common, is you will see that kind of hair rollers in women's hair, especially here in the banks, till their end destination. So sometimes, even if they date, they go till the date with that hair roller in, and as soon as they go out of the bus station or the train station and they will know the person will wait there, then they take it out. And sometimes, depending on how often they date, even in that times they will not do. They will only take it out for pictures. That moment is really important, so that's why Koreans often on pictures look really stunning. Because always they do that kind of things or directly apply some makeup and then do some pictures. If you are in some buses or some trains also, sometimes it's depending. Because some older trains doesn't have it, newer trains that definitely have it. Different color of seats. Especially in the train, you more often see some pink seats, and many foreigners already know that is a pregnancy seat. Sometimes it's even written in English over that. But the same also applies to buses. Buses often have some kind of caps or some hoods over the bus seat with the different colors. In some cases, I actually also asked my partner what the color mean, but he also don't know. So in some cases, they know, especially the pink one is mostly for pregnant person. Or in some regional buses, the orange one is mostly for older people. So if you see some cap which is not green, or some cap which has the most seats have this kind of cap or hood, then please do not sit on it if you don't want to get in a fight or in some argumentation about something. It's really a little bit hard to say. I mean, if you know there's no other person there and maybe you have some luggage and you want to sit next to an exit of the bus, then you can do it. But as soon as you see an older person, usually they already target that kind of seats. So as soon as they come in and you see them targeting that kind of seat, just directly get up and move. In that case, you will not have any. Also, a point that I was a little bit surprised about, which is related to the pink seats. There are often old women sitting on the pink seats. So even you are pregnant, just in case you get pregnant in Korea, you get a small badge. Maybe I can put a picture here. You can get a small badge or a tag that you are pregnant and you can sit on that kind of seats. But older people, even you have that badge, even you stand in front of them, these old women will look on their phone, sometimes even look in your face, and they will not move at all. Don't be mad about it. I also often got mad about that situation and wanted to help, especially I saw some foreign Korean couple. The woman was a Korean, the man was a foreigner. And he got mad about the situation, but the woman also just said in English, just let it go, because if we fight, then maybe she will hit my belly. And I saw some news article about that kind of situations. So my tip in Korea is do not try to fight with an ajumma or that is an older woman. Do not try to fight with ajumma, and try always to avoid that kind of situations. In some cases of trains, that is the next point, people are begging for money, people walking around with some kind of notice and give it to you. Sometimes even some people walk around with some tissue boxes or something they just put next to you and just asking for money like that. Like it has a note on it to say like, oh yeah, I have that kind of situation. If you want, it would be nice to give me money and that kind of thing. But they always have some tissue box or just some like a small things they give you. So as soon as you take it, you have to give them something. It's not like they just give it, and if you want to give them money, then you can give them money. As soon as you take it, they think you have to give them money. So if you don't want to give money, or if you don't have any cash, then do not take that kind of things. Sometimes also people just sell some like crackers in the train, or they sell some fruits and vegetables. I also saw already. Or the most common thing is they sell socks. These socks are a little bit more expensive than the usual underground. So if you really desperately need, like in the rainy season in Korea, then you can take it. It is not a bad quality. There's nothing wrong. But just to remind you, actually outside in some underground shops, they are more cheap than when they sell it in the train. One thing that you can notice someone is drunk or a foreigner is if someone talk loud in the train. Usually the most Koreans have their earplugs in, even really older people, and just look at their phones. So as soon as someone talk, they are basically maybe drunken. There could be also a little bit more kind of rude style young Koreans, or they are foreigners. So often if you are on the maybe line 6 on the on the north side of the Hangang River, then you will see or hear, mostly you hear foreigners before you see them. So someone is just talking, even you don't understand which language it is, even if it is Korean. Sometimes they come in, they directly talk about where they want to go and everything, but really loudly. So also that can cause a fight with some Korean old woman. And I saw that several times. So I sometimes also just kind of try to tell them that it's not nice to talk loud in the train in Korea. So if you want to avoid to get some stress in the train, please do not talk loud. One thing that I've really loved in Korea and still didn't use that much is you can easily travel in Korea on a cheaper budget, but you have to focus on things and earlier. So you can take express bus tickets. We went to Jeonju one time, which is around 15K, which is pretty cheap. Or you can take a plane from Seoul to Jeju for just like a 20K. So I will put the prices in here, what I just said, and also in US dollar and euro. So it is pretty cheap, but especially if you go by the local trains, the regional trains, you have to focus that usually Korean trains end earlier. So they don't go all the night. And sometimes if you drink outside, you will easily notice that suddenly that whole train station is closed and you will not be able to take a train. But don't be scared about that. Taxis are really cheap in Korea. So the next point is also taxis. Taxis are already, as I mentioned, really cheap. But as a foreigner, you have to be careful. Actually, there's one rule that still could be really highly charged, but still some people and some taxi drivers do it. If you go into the taxi and you take a taxi, they sometimes just randomly tell some amount to you. Like they say, 20K. Like a 2만 원 or 4만 원, 4만 원. Especially in the evening time, if they notice that you're drunk, you will get that kind of response. Because they know you are a foreigner, you don't 100% know how much a taxi costs. So I actually in Seoul never paid over like maybe 17K or something. Even we one time went from Seoul to more outside, we didn't pay like more than 30K. So if you go into the taxi, and especially if you are in Itaewon or some club like Gangnam, and you just go short period of time, like maybe 15, 20 minutes, it should not be over 2만 원. If they say 4만 원, 4만 원, directly you will notice, but also you will notice as soon as they don't put on the meter. Because that is the rule that I mentioned. Always taxi drivers have to put on the meter in their taxi, and if they don't do it, it's illegal. So mostly for Koreans, they don't do it, but really often for foreigners, they do. They just say like, oh yeah, just give me 4만 원. Also, you don't know what is that much in your currency. Or, I mean, in Germany, taxis are really, really expensive, so we would not take a taxi if we can walk somewhere. Even we are drunk, we try to take the train. Because taxis, even for like a 5 minutes, could be like a 30 euro or something. In Korea, it's really cheap. But you can easily get cheated as a foreigner by a taxi driver. So the last thing for this video is, if you are lost or if you have an issue, or as I one time had, and that is kind of a story time, I went to the train and didn't have to tap my T money, so I was really confused. Then you can always ring on that kind of metal doors on the side. So these metal doors have a ring for usually older people to go and go out. But also if you have a question from the office in the station, because there's mostly an office in these stations. So if you ring there and they notice you cannot speak Korean, someone will come there and then still you can communicate with a translator. So that is no issue. So in my case, I also just ring there because I was behind the tapping thing with my luggage. So I was just, what should I do? I know if I go in the train, then I later get an issue because they know I didn't pay. So I just ring there and some woman just came and we just text with the translator that time. So I just explained, I just came here, I didn't have to tap, so what should I do? Can I just now tap from here? How does it work? So she just tapped me in and said like, oh yeah, you're good to go. So as soon as I ended up in my location that I wanted to go, I could easily tap out and everything was done. So this was it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you have some questions about the train things that I just mentioned or some other things that related to train, then just leave it in the comments below. Also, I will make, as I mentioned in the beginning, some other topics like a restaurant or something. So maybe give it a subscription if you want to know more about that kind of things. Otherwise, just give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!